Good morning. Hello everyone. Welcome to Woolen Spinning. My name is Rachel and this is episode 319 of Woolen Spinning. Welcome to another episode. It is Monday, August 4th, 2025. We had to move the podcast this week because the kids are in a camp starting tomorrow. Today is a statutory holiday here in Canada. I think it's most of Canada, if not all of Canada. Anyways, semantics. The kids start a camp tomorrow and they have to be at the camp at 11 a.m. And that's right when the podcast is. So there was no way that I could be in two places at once. And when Rebecca and I started talking about switching things around and doing, she would do the wool circle this week and I would do the live stream next week. It just, the whole schedule started to get unruly. And I was like, you know what, let's just leave it and we'll shift the podcast by a day. So thank you so much to everybody who's here. Welcome. I hope that you find something here that you find exciting. Rebecca, our podcast community is so different from most podcast communities. And Rebecca said, as her and Ellen were chit-chatting just before the show started, she said, like, to be honest, the ranking system is so annoying. Can you please turn it off? I can't. But yes, I agree with you. It's got the live chat function on YouTube has like this thing now where it does like top fans. So if you chat the most in chat, then you get like a little crown, and it shifts throughout the show. It's distracting. It's annoying. And I think a lot of it is just because like in our community, it's not like some of the tech podcasts where they're trying to like outcompete each other in terms of like, you know, having a really, really busy chat and so on and so forth. It's our community is so like come one, come all. It's annoying. It started about 3 or 4 streams ago, I think. Yeah. But I've tried to turn it off, but you can't. It's a new feature. Apparently people love it. Not our community. So if this is your first time checking out the podcast, welcome. We gather together to share all of the things about hand spun yarn, hand spinning, making yarn, the different fibers that we can use to make yarn. We do talk a lot about wool, as you guys know. For those of you who've been around for a while, you know that I weave with my hand spun, I knit with my hand spun. I have been known to crochet with my hand spun. That is something that I would like to be able to do more of, and just carve out more time to do a bit more crochet and to learn how to crochet and feel a bit more confident with crochet. So today's episode, we've got quite a lot to cover. I've got some finished yarn for Tour de Fleece and Tour de Fleece Femme. Tour de Fleece Femme finishes tomorrow for those who did continue on and continue spinning. For those of you who did do Tour de Fleece, how did it go? I want to know. Let me know in the chat what you guys like enjoyed, what was challenging this year, what did you find difficult, did you have a goal and did you make that goal, how did you make that goal? I'd love to hear. Let me know in the chat. So I have continued to spin throughout Tour de Fleece and Tour de Fleece Femme. This is actually the first year in a very long time that I've made it a priority, and I am so glad that I did. I actually got quite a bit done, as you can see from the photo down here. I finished my Jacob spin, which we talked about last episode. Sorry, my camera just moved. I need to fix that. I finished my Jacob, which we talked about last episode, and then I actually have finished 2 more skeins, the green one that's in the photo here, and then another skein that we'll talk about today. And I also did a couple of samples for my friend Melissa of Melly Knits, which are the pink and the white there. And we'll talk about that next episode, just because this episode is going to get longer and longer. There's just way too much to talk about. And then I have one on the wheel right here next to me, which I'm not sure you guys can see, on my e-spinner. We'll talk about that this episode, spinning on my e-spinner. And this is actually almost done. I've got this little bit left. So we'll talk about that very quickly today, but then I'll share the finished skein next time. So I think that's good. I think we'll get into it. So what I wanted to start off with today is we'll run the intro credits. And then I have a couple of announcements to make and some really exciting things coming. We're going to keep it really short today, and I'm just going to sort of blitz over it a little bit. And next episode, I will go into more detail. I'm kind of thinking of next episode 320 as a bit of a housekeeping episode. It's going to be a bit heavy on really explaining what's changing and what's coming for September so that everybody is super, super, super clear. And I want you to come out of that episode, especially those who are current patrons of the community. I want you to come out of that episode that everything's clear as mud, that you're like, you know what to expect for September, and whether or not you have any questions for me, if you need to get in touch with me, I want you to sort of feel coming out of that episode like you know what's going on. So we'll just teaser a few things today, and not teaser, but like give you some information today about what's coming, and then we'll go from there. And Ellen, thank you. That is very kind. Thank you. You just like made my day. So let's do the intro, and then we'll talk about what's coming up in September. And I'm gonna tighten my camera. And my intro credits are gone. So hang on. My husband he's so helpful. He is so amazing, and he accidentally archived my credits. So just give me a second here and I will find it, because I know exactly where it is. We were trying to clear up some space on the desktop, but now my credits are gone. I might not be able to find them. Shoot. That's super annoying. I don't know if I can find them. They are gone. Oh, darn it. Okay, just bear with me for just a sec here, you guys. Darn, I'm not gonna be able to find them. Okay, just pretend there's intro credits here and that everything is working the way that it is supposed to work. That is so frustrating. I don't even know where he went to back up. Give me one chance to check one more spot, and then if I can't find it, we will dump it for today. Darn. Oh, that's so frustrating. Okay, well, I tried to look for them. They're not here. Yeah, they are gone. Okay, well, we'll move on, and I will fix that for next episode, because that is super frustrating that it got archived. Where are my intro credits? I have to make a note for myself, otherwise I'll forget. Okay. Oh my goodness, he did, Evelyn. He did, because he got rid of my intro stream credits. I had to grab those, and then now I wonder if my end credits are gone as well. Darn. Okay, it's not his fault. I should have triple checked. Okay. For September. I'm going to play the housekeeping video. That is working. I'm going to play the housekeeping video, and then afterwards we will talk about some of the changes that are coming. But there are things in the housekeeping video that have the announcements and have what's coming. So let's do that, and then I will answer any questions and also clarify a couple of things afterwards. So I will see you on the other side. There are some changes coming to the woolen spinning community in September. We are super excited to start sharing them with you. Please ask lots of questions for clarity and let me know how I can help you navigate it all. Ketchup and Pickles goes out on the 1st of the month each month. They contain all the links and announcements that you need to navigate content and events. Be sure to grab this post when you see it in your email inbox. The Wool Circle is streamed by Rebecca on the opposite Tuesdays from the live stream. While the podcast is the heart of woolen spinning, the Wool Circle is a chance to get back to basics with sampling, fiber preparation, and content related to our book study. Rebecca will be sharing some of her summer spins and projects this month before we jump into the last part of our 2-year study on Sarah Anderson's The Book of Yarn Designs. This last part of our study will cover all of the textured yarns, including core spinning and coils, boucle, and more. This is a great opportunity to jump in and join us. Look for the free trial on Patreon. The teaching content that is published each month by myself, Rachel, will be replaced by something new come September. I am so pleased to announce that Dionne Carter will be joining our team to explore all things related to color. Her content will be available at all levels of Patreon support from the Spinning Circle and up. All tiers that you see active on Patreon at this time include her new show, Color Mania. Rebecca and I are so excited to welcome Dionne to the team, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Spinning Staples and Queries are dedicated Zoom groups with Rebecca and myself, Rachel, to answer questions, navigate the book study, and discuss in-depth hand spinning concepts. Access a dedicated community of spinners who are exploring their craft and inspiring one another face-to-face over Zoom. Our community groups meet informally throughout the week. Look for the Zoom link in Slack at the time of the meeting. These calls are an opportunity to ask questions, learn about Slack and Patreon, and get help navigating content. The post with meeting link goes live the night before on Patreon. While Tour de Fleece Femme finishes tomorrow, Spindle Spun season continues. Check the Slack channel #Spindles for patrons and the Ravelry group to see what people in our community have been working on. Links are below. Okay. So pretty exciting. I did tighten the camera, so let me just move it over there because I obviously moved it. All right, so Dionne will be coming on, and she will be doing this, what we're gonna call, she came up with the name, I think it's perfect. She will be doing a vlog every month called Color Mania. And the cool thing about this is that, so I've been doing spinning pearls as part of the teaching content for since the inception of the podcast. It's always been like an additional vlog every month, and it has like the teaching content. So we did, vlogs that were for 51 yarns when we did that. Our year of color, there was a massive one every single month, and so on. And I've sort of created all that content for all these years. And for the last couple of years, we've been looking at archived content because there's just such a huge back catalog of stuff. And Dionne had approached me back late spring and said hey, is there an opportunity here? So she will be doing the spinning pearls that will morph now into Color Mania starting in September. So she will have a small, very short guest appearance on the podcast next episode just to introduce herself. And then starting in September, when you pledge from the Spinning Circle up, so anything from the Spinning Circle up will be with Dionne. There is more coming, and there are more announcements for me to make around all of that, but I'm going to save it for next episode just so as not to completely overwhelm everyone, because there's quite a few things coming that are going to change. Spinning Pearls is not going anywhere. It's just going to shift and morph and change. And Color Mania will kind of take its spot and where it's been for the last number of years, which is really exciting. So welcome to Dionne. I'm really excited for her to jump in and jump on and to have a voice and a platform to be able to share what she does. For those of you who know Dionne and have met her in the informal Zoom groups and whatnot throughout the week, she is a wealth of knowledge. She's incredibly forthcoming with her knowledge and shares a lot. And it's just lovely to be able to celebrate her and bring even more added value for you guys, but also to value her and her time and what she's been exploring and experimenting with. The other announcement that I wanted to make was around the novelty yarns. Our Spinner's Book of Yarn Designs, this 2-year book study, it has been huge, such a big undertaking, especially for Rebecca, is coming to an end in December of this year. And we will be finishing off with our novelty yarn. So this is all of the textured yarns, boucle, correspond, coils, super coils, anything that you can think of sort of in that realm. Rebecca's working, she's put together the syllabus. I will be sharing that link in the Slack channel in the next day or two, and it will come up on Ketchup and Pickles for September, the housekeeping post with all the links with everything for September. And we will be sort of wrapping this study going into December. It has been a huge study. I think Rebecca and I are very leery to take on another massive book study like this. And so we're sort of looking at, alongside Dionne, the three of us are sort of looking at maybe doing some like sort of themed months where we do 3 or 4 months at a time where we've got kind of an overarching theme, and then we go to the next theme, especially when people are traveling in the summer and we're sort of doing other things. People are coming and going. It's a really great opportunity to be flexible, because we've been very inflexible for the last few years, because we had our year of color that was quite intense, and then we went straight into this study. So I think me and Rebecca are both sort of wanting some flexibility. So that syllabus is coming up, and again, great opportunity to jump in and join in with the community where we're at, because we're sort of at a natural intake point where people who are interested in learning about this stuff from Rebecca on the Wool Circle. Look for the Wool Circle on under membership options on Patreon. There is a free trial, and you can get a lay of the land, you get a feel for it, jump in with one of the onboarding calls, see what you think, meet Rebecca personally, and we'll be sort of embarking on our final study for that book. It is crazy that it has been 2 years that we've been working on this. It's been quite the marathon. So I'm ready. I think I'm really ready for something new and for something different, but I'm also really looking forward to the novelty yarns and the textured yarn study. And I've been really trying to clear off my bobbins and get things finished and get things spun so that I'm ready to go in September. I've got a couple of ideas and a couple of things I want to do. So last little bit of housekeeping, Woolen Spinning Radio, which is our audio podcast, is available and live. It went live a little bit late this month. It was a couple days late. It was just because we couldn't get our schedules all organized to record. But it is a post Tour de Fleece recap. So Rebecca and Dionne and I all share what we worked on for Tour de Fleece, how it went, our thoughts, and that is available wherever you catch your audio podcast. So thank you so much for tuning in and for listening. It's also a really wonderful way to meet, quote unquote, Rebecca and Dionne, and hear their voices, get a sense of their personalities, who they are, their way in the world, if you will, through the audio podcast, because I get to take a little tiny bit of a back seat and they get to sort of take the driver's seat, which is really fun. So once again, welcome to Dionne, and thank you so much for your support. That means that I could do this, that when she approached me, I was able to say yes. I wouldn't have been able to say yes if it wasn't for you guys and for the continued support on the podcast. So thank you. This is really because of you guys. All right, let me get my notes here. I'm not going to talk about my West Coast Color CVM Muga Silk blend that I've been working on. I had a little bit of a snafu with the fleece. I started to go through it a little bit more with a bit more care and attention. And as I was doing that and as I was looking at it, I realized that a whole bunch of the fleece, more than half of it, was completely like unsalvageable. It was felted. It was really badly damaged. I'm not sure when that happened and how that happened. I'm not sure if it was from when I washed it or from when a friend washed it. Like, I don't know. At some point, the two fleeces got thrown together to make about 2 pounds. And when I was going through it, there was just so few locks that were salvageable. So what I did was I went through it with a fine tooth comb and I pulled everything out that I could possibly salvage, everything that I thought, I could use and could work with. And I took all of that and I finished prepping it with the Muga. So I didn't treat that those initial nests that I was spinning, I didn't treat them as a sample anymore. I just left them on the wheel and kept on spinning with the stuff that I followed up with and prepped. So I got another 80 grams out of that and added in the 20% Muga, and I've been spinning through that. So once that is done, the yarn will be done, and I'm more than halfway through the 80 grams. I just have to sit and finish the last little bit. I don't know what happened. I'm not sure if it was just stored for too long. I doubt it. I think there was something that happened when during the washing process, and I just didn't look closely enough. There was also a whole bunch of it that it wasn't nice fleece. Like it wasn't nice. It wasn't worth it. So I did end up composting what I couldn't salvage, and it's on me. There must have been something that happened in the washing process. It was quite difficult to pull it apart, to work with it. I could have muscled my way through it, but honestly, the sheep will grow more fleece. They are always growing. So hopefully I'll have that finished for the next episode, and I can finish that spin off and show you guys what I ended up doing. So we won't chat about that today. So let's move on to skeined and finished yarns, because I'm excited to share all that with you. All my credits are gone. Oh my gosh, you guys, I checked some of these. Yeah, they're all gone. Okay, well, we won't have show dividers today, but that's okay. This is, so let me just preface this a little bit. I have been working my way through the Longway Homestead breed study. It's taken me forever. I think I subscribed in 2021, or maybe it was the end of 2020, and I got my 12 months. And Longway Homestead is based out of Manitoba, which is a province here in Canada. And Alana used to be based out of Vancouver, and she owned a yarn shop here and whatnot. And then she sold that, and they bought the farm Longway Homestead in Manitoba. And if you subscribe to her breed study sort of fiber of the month club, it's very affordable because she vacuum seals everything. So she sends it through letter mail, which is quite ingenious. I had 3 left, and I had just kind of gotten bogged down with it, and I was blasting through it. I was doing so well. And then I just kind of got bogged down with it. I'm not sure exactly why, but the last 3 got put away. And last weekend, Mike and I were starting to clear out the garage and work on some organizational stuff. And I was going through all of my bins, and I took all of my braids and I condensed them down into 4 bins. So I am down to 4 bins of braids. I'm hoping that I can get through them over the next year or so. And famous last words, it'll be like 5 years from now. I'll be like, hey, look, I'm finally finished. But the Longway Homestead, I found them, and I was like, I can't believe I left these 3 languishing all this time, because I was on a roll with it and I was getting through them like no problem, and then all of a sudden I just stopped. So I grabbed out the Icelandic and I spun it up while we watched a bit of TV on Friday night, and I spun it end to end. I'll take this down just so that you guys can see. So I spun this end to end. And let me see if the camera, yeah, there we go. It's singles. What I did, this was roving. So one of the things about the Longway Homestead breed study that you need to know is that it is all woolen prep. So it's all roving. And what I did with this one was, I wasn't going to spin it as singles because it is roving. The tog and the thell are both in there. It's a little bit uneven. It'd be difficult to get really super even singles. But then I thought, you know what? I'm just going to pre-draft it. I'll start at the one end and I'll just spin through it. And if I don't like the singles, I can go back and I can ply them. But I really like the singles. It turned out really super well. So I spun, like I said, I just spun it as singles. I did it end to end. I did it all in one evening. This is 100 grams. And this is washed. I did soak it in extremely hot water. I had to put on gloves to put my hands into the water with some Eucalyptus wool wash, and I agitated it a bit while I was washing it and playing with it and stuff. And then I just left it, and I let it soak in there for about 20-30 minutes. It might have even been a bit longer. And then I went back and pulled it out. I wrung it out, got it all, got as much of the water out as possible. They've just arrived next door to do her lawn next door. Like the all I can think of is vacuuming. Oh my gosh, you guys, the mowing. They're gonna vacuum the lawn, the mowing. So you might hear some background noise for a few minutes. They're generally pretty fast. Anyhow, this came out really great. It was quite kinky and curly when I took it off the e-spinner, when I took it off the bobbin. I am going to leave it as singles, and I think I did a couple of other ones of the Longway Homestead breed study. I think I also left them as singles. So it's some of them will be 2-ply and some of them will be singles. And I'm really happy with how this turned out. It came out really beautifully. It's about 22 wraps per inch. It might, if I do decide to weave with it, I probably will have to tighten it up just ever so slightly and put it back through the wheel a little bit, but it's quite lovely. I'm really happy with how this turned out. Now, I have 2 more left to do. So the Icelandic came out, this was the original lock. She gives you a picture of the lock. So very dark gray. And that one, I think part of why it spun up so quickly was because it was only 100 grams. I pre-drafted the whole thing and it just went super, super smooth. Now, the second one that I have to do is the Shetland. I just love Shetland sheep. I think they're just the cutest things. The Shetland locks that they have off the farm are they're very, very typical Shetland, very atypical, lots and lots of different colors. Shetland has 11 shades within the breed, from off-white, tans, browns, grays, and blacks. It is by far the most stunning trait of Shetland. I think if you asked anybody in the community who is a more experienced spinner and sort of on that scale of like, you know, they've spun quite a number of breeds, Shetland is usually one of the ones that people say, I love Shetland. It's often one of those wools that is just, people love it. So this is Evelyn. Oh, sure. Rachel casually spins a giant amount of yarn while watching TV. I know. I'm sorry, Evelyn. So what I did with the Shetland is, again, this is a good opportunity for you guys to see the roving. This is what the Icelandic looked like as well, although the Icelandic wasn't as soft as this is. This Shetland is extremely soft. There's a lot of short bits in here, and there's also slightly longer fibers in here. It's quite varied. I thought that it would long draw like a dream, but it's actually not been super easy to long draw. It's been a little tiny bit grumpy. I have this much left. I started this last night, so that's how quickly it's going. Like, this is really fast. Although Evelyn, pretend I didn't say that. Just ignore me. I've been using my battery for my e-spinner. I've been dragging it around with me, and I'm going to talk about my e-spinner in just a second. But this is the bobbin here. So it's almost, you know, it's getting to the fuller side. I find when with my e-spinner, I have the Ashford e-spinner 3. I find when it gets to about here, because the bobbin is quite weighted down, like there's almost 100 grams on here, almost, you know, sort of 3.2 ounces of fiber. I do find that the motor starts to, with the battery, it starts to slow down a bit. So I have to crank up the speed a little bit more. Whereas when it's plugged into the wall, that's not an issue. And it does pull from my battery quite a bit more, and the battery dies a little bit faster, even though the battery on this thing lasts for a very long time. But I do find when I start to get about 2/3, it just starts to pull from the battery more. There's more weight for the motor to have to move. You're pulling against it because of the resistance. You know, you're spinning against it. And I've been sort of doing a modified continuous back where I'm sort of smoothing, sort of not, kind of long draw-ish. It's kind of all over the place. And that's mostly just to keep the singles really super even. They're going to be very woolen. I think I'm going to 2-ply this. It's a little bit thick and thin, and it'll make just a really lovely woolen yarn. And I could ply it quite firmly because of the fineness of the Shetland. It'll be able to cope with that. And I mean, this would just be beautiful woven. So I am thinking about that. I don't know what I'm going to do with my Longway Homestead yarns. I had a rule. Okay. This is my neuroses coming out. I had a rule for myself when I started spinning them, because I started working on them right away as soon as I started getting them in I think it was 2020 that I started them. When I got because it's only 12 months and then it stops. And I had a rule for myself that I wasn't going to knit or weave any of the yarns until I had them all done. So I have all 10 of the yarns, this one included, sitting waiting to be something, and they're in a massive Ziploc bag all together. So this one needs to be added, and then when I finish the Shetland, it'll be added. I'm thinking probably what I'll do with the Shetland is I'll let it rest on the bobbin for a week. I'll just pull it off the e-spinner, put it off to the side, and then eventually I'll wind a center pull ball and I'll ply from that, and I'll do a 2-ply. Most of the Longway Homestead yarns that I've done are 2-ply, and that's why I'm thinking I won't leave this as singles, because it is very, very soft fiber. The Shetland is very, very soft. Like it's probably 22, 20, 24 microns. Is quite soft, this particular one. Anna says on here that the fiber diameter is between 20 and 30 microns, and I would definitely say this one is on the lower end for sure. It's softer. So if I just rest it for a week and let it sit there for a little bit, and then I will do a center pull 2-ply, or I'll wind it off onto 2 bobbins and try to divide it relatively evenly. I hate doing that. I always end up overshooting one. Eveline says, what do you mean by grumpy? Like what grumpy in what way? I'm finding because of the variety of staple lengths in there, there's a lot of short bits, there's a lot of longer bits. It's just kind of all over the place. It's hard to get it really, really even and really consistent, which would make one think, oh, just default to long draw. And that'll kind of work it all out, because then all the fibers will be captured and you can just long draw. But I haven't been able to get into like a really good rhythm with it. I just couldn't last night. I just couldn't get into like a really lovely long draw rhythm like I normally am able to. Maybe it's because I was tired. It was at night. I'm not sure. The e-spinner. I want to talk about e-spinning, and Sadie, you just asked a question that sort of ties in very nicely with all of this. I don't dislike the Hansen e-spinner. So maybe I misspoke in a past video, or maybe what I said wasn't clear, or maybe I just didn't articulate myself really well. It's not that I didn't like the Hansen e-spinner when I had it. I'm not a big fan of e-spinners in general. It's not my favorite way to spin. I really like treadle wheels, and I've been very consistent with that for a very, very, very long time, like basically since I started spinning. I've had the Ashford e-spinner now for a number of years. I want to say like 3, 4, or 5 years I've had it. Maybe 2021, I think maybe I got it. And it's one of those things where e-spinning and working on my e-spinners, I've often thought about like getting a Degalis. I've had opportunities to get the Hansen again. It's just not my default and not my go-to to grab my e-spinners. But what I thought I would do this tour, and I didn't talk about this on the podcast in July because we just kept running out of time and the show was getting longer and longer and longer, which seems to be a thing. The shows are getting longer and longer. I thought it would be a really good opportunity to pull it out, and it sits on my cart all the time anyways. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to pull it out, charge the battery, because I do keep the battery charged most of the time. I thought I'll top it up, and I'm going to try to only spin on my e-spinner for the whole tour. And I think one of the things that I wanted to do was to sort of see how I felt about e-spinning. Like, I haven't had an e-spinner for a long time, and or like I haven't used one for a long time. I kind of put it off to the side and just sort of forgot about it. They're not my favorite way of spinning. I do like treadle wheels. I like counting treadles. I like doing all the mathematical stuff that we do on in the teaching content, and a lot of the stuff that we talk about in a lot of the behind the scenes things that we do at Wool and Spinning in the community. But I think what I've come to realize, and I think what I really came to appreciate through Tour de Fleece, is the portability. I took it with me everywhere, and I got a huge amount of yarn spun. There is no way that I would have gotten all of this done. We'll talk about this skein in a minute. All of my Jacob was done on the e-spinner. A bunch of samples for my friend Melissa of Melly Knits were spun, and I got this Shetland almost done. And I think the reason is because our life right now is very on the go. It's very portable. I could take my spindles everywhere, absolutely 100%. I'm not denying that. I'm just not talking about spindles right now. I'm talking about my e-spinner, because I wanted to see what, coming back to my e-spinner after all this time and not using it for the last couple of years very much, what that would do. And you know, I'm surprised how much I've been enjoying it. I've been really enjoying it. It spins a ton of yarn. for me in a relatively short period of time. I can crank up the speed. And like last night, for example, I was sitting on one corner of the couch. There's no way I could have fit my treadle wheel in there next to me, because James was like laying on me, because of course, you know, he's 13 and he wants to be all over us. And I had my cart in front of me sort of off to the side, and I was able to just sit there and spin. That's probably why I couldn't get into a rhythm, is because this arm was hindered by James. And I could just spin. And I did that the night before, and that's how I got the Icelandic done. So I'm really appreciating the volume of yarn that I can get spun on it. And I don't think it's because I'm that much faster. I think it's just the portability. It's just being able to pull it out. I did take it to the beach with me this past a week and a half ago Wednesday, and I got all of the sampling done that I needed to do for my friend Melissa, and that was really helpful. So yeah, just kind of enjoying it, enjoying the process, missing my wheels for sure. And I've got my Lundrum sitting back here with the very fast flyer on it, the one that does 36 to 1, 48 to 1, and it's got my cotton on it. And I need to get back to that and keep working on that, because I do really enjoy that wheel when it's set up like that. And I've been missing dragging that around with me and working on that. So just really appreciating my tools and appreciating the variety of my tools. I did ply this. We'll talk about this skein next. I did ply this on my Lundrum Saxony, and I haven't pulled out my Lundrum Saxony for a really super long time. It kind of sits in the corner, and it really reinforced for me that it's not the best wheel for me. I couldn't get the speed on it that I needed. Wasn't running it in double drive, and I should have. I just felt like I was fighting with it the whole time. So I need to decide what I'm going to do with that wheel, because it does sit, and it would be a phenomenal wheel for somebody else, and would be used and would be loved, and would be a wonderful wheel for someone else. So I'm thinking about what I'm going to do with that wheel over the next little while. This is my Bramble Ridge, and I wanted to show you some photos of it. So this is my Bramble Ridge. So this I bought at, I can't remember if I bought it at Knit City Calgary or if I bought it at Fibers West that following year in the March. I really cannot remember. But this is a 75-25 BFL Masham, and I have spun this blend before because the colorway for Knit City Calgary was called Giddy Up, and it was on BFL Masham. And I gifted a braid of it to my friend Glenda as well. And it's just a really fun blend. The BFL is smooth, it's easy to spin, it's long stapled, you just get into a really nice rhythm with it. So what I did with this, it had been sitting, the braid had been sitting here on my desk since I bought it. And so I thought what I would do is I just one evening started stripping it down. So this is what the original braid looked like before I started stripping it down. It's called The Price of Eggs. And it's so subtle. The colors are so gentle. It's got that beautiful quail's egg blue in there, the gorgeous golden yellow. I just love these colors so much. Evelyn says they're so subtle. They're really pretty. Thank you so much. And I tried to make it even more watercolor, and I kind of highlighted that. So what I ended up doing was sort of a modified 2-ply fractal kind of idea. So I started stripping it down. I was going to spin it end to end, each length, and then just ply them together. But then I started stripping it, and I started stripping it some more, and I started stripping it some more. So the one bobbin ended up being 3 pre-drafted, pre-attenuated. That's where you go through and you air out your fiber and pull it apart a little bit and add all that air back in. That was bobbin 1, and then I kind of went a bit crazy and started stripping down the second bobbin. I just stripped and stripped and stripped and stripped. What my thought process behind doing this was one, beautiful prep and pre-drafting. It was already beautifully dyed. Megan's an incredible dyer. Very, very gentle with the braids. The fiber is always really nicely handled, not beaten up at all. Very, very gently handled. And when I was stripping it down, I just kept, I just wanted to add as much air as possible. BFL Masham, they tend to be a little bit heavier. They're a little bit denser, a little bit higher micron. They tend to make sort of what I would consider really substantial yarns. They're not necessarily dense, just, you know, they're medium wools for sure. And this particular blend makes just a really beautiful you can see there's a bit of a halo. Like this would just be an awesome sweater yarn for like cables, something that you're going to wear outside that's just got that outdoor quality to it. And so I just thought if I strip it and strip it and strip it and add more and more air to the prep, it'll be nice to spin. It'll be easy to spin. And that's exactly what happened. So I just kept stripping and stripping, and you can see the gray of the BFL and the Masham in there. It's not fully perfect white, and that comes through in the finished yarn. There's a little tiny bit of variegation in the finished yarn, which is really pleasing, but very subtle. And then when I went to ply it, I kept adding twist. So I did make this relatively high twist. Here's a close-up photo. For BFL Masham, this is quite a tight twist angle. A lot of twist dissipated in the water. So this twist angle was closer to 45 degrees. And then in washing it, it came out sort of somewhere between 35 and 40 degrees. It's probably sitting around 37 degrees. It's quite firm. And the yarn feels firm. Like it feels ever so slightly crunchy, just ever so slightly. And the reason for that is if I throw it on my loom, it needs to have more twist. And I may as well put that in now rather than try and put it back through the wheel and fix that. So down the road. I did the same thing with the other one. My plan with both of these, the Giddy Up and this one, is to warp the loom with something. I'm not sure yet what, but something. And then this yarn and the Giddy Up will be supplemental weft. So something overshot, something patterned, something like that. And for those who aren't weavers yet, what I'm talking about here is you have a plain weave over under ground, and then you throw your shuttle with another yarn every other time, and it creates a pattern over top. So for anybody who hasn't seen overshot or maybe crackle, some of the other weave structures out there that are called supplementary weft structures, that's what we're talking about, is this kind of float work idea where you have a second yarn going over top. And that's my plan with these two yarns. I just have no idea what I'm going to do with them yet. I have to design something. I've got to figure out what I want to do. I need to have a long think about you know, how to use them and showcase them the way that I want to. That's coming. I will get there. The other spin that I threw on the wheel for Tour de Fleece Femme, so I wanted to have this done by tomorrow, and there is absolutely no way that that is going to happen, but I can hope, is my when I was going through my bins and everything last weekend and I was organizing everything, I came across 6 ounces of variegated BFL. And I'll just show you the photo because it's just sometimes easier to talk to the photo. So this is what I found in my stash. I knew it was in there. I've been thinking about it over the years. I've thought about it off and on and wondered, oh, what should I do with that? And I know it's out there, and I know it's ready to be spun. So this is 6 ounces, and this was back when Fat Cat Knits was she was gonna shut down her business. She took a big break and stepped back from dyeing, and we had used her fiber for the book for unbraided, and I had also ordered some braids for myself. And one of my most favorite spins that I've ever done was on her London Fog colorway. It's one of my absolute most favorite colorways from any dyer ever. And then I also had this one, and this one is called Dame Gaudel. It's, I don't know what it's from, Dame Gaudel, does somebody know? It's something fantasy, high fantasy, but it's the Dame Gaudel gradient. I've been calling it Godric's Hollow. I don't know why. I just had it in my mind. Anyways, the green is like neon. Like even if I show it to you here, it is neon. Like the colors are completely and totally accurate. They completely blow out everything in behind me. And the purple is quite garish. So James said to me when he saw what I was spinning and he saw it on my wheel, he's like, why are you spinning the Wicked colors? I was like, that's actually a really good point. That's totally what these look like. Because it was her, she was closing down her business and she was saying goodbye to doing all of this stuff. The 6 ounces actually came in 2 pieces. So this is the 4-ounce braid. And then what she did was she added that other piece that's right there on the side. That's another 2-ounce piece. So I've got the 4 ounces here, and then there's another 2-ounce piece. So what I did was I actually spun that 2 ounces end to end. And so this is the first bobbin completely finished. and I spun it very, very, very fine. I know you can't really see, you can see it on my wheel there in the photo. That's probably actually the best way to see it, is that very, very fine singles. My plan with this braid was always right from the get-go to chain ply it, because it's in a gradient, and I'd always sort of planned to use this as a gradient yarn. And you can probably guess what I'm going to do with it. Those of you who've been following along for a while, you guys probably know exactly what I'm going to do. Exactly, Rebecca says very maleficent coated. Exactly. Oh, Godel is Godel. I thought maybe somebody like Evelyn would know, or maybe Eve. Anybody who's into high fantasy, I thought maybe would know. I think Mike might know, and I need to ask him. So what I'm going to do with this is take this other braid, and I'll just spin it end to end as well. So I've been spinning this on my Magic Half Coat Pro, Susie Pro. I was really hoping to have this done for tomorrow for the end of Tour de Fleece Femme, but I'm just going to have to settle on it being done this week at some point. And then I'll rewind the singles. The reason why I rewound the singles for this particular spin, because I don't always do it. I do it a lot, but I don't always do it. But what I wanted to do was, because this is going to be chain plied, for those who haven't learned about chain ply yet, chain ply is where you loop your singles through one another to create literally a long crocheted chain, and it makes a 3-ply, and it's sort of a 3-ply adjacent. Some people say it's a singles yarn still because it's looped. Some people say no, it's a 3-ply. Some people say it's probably somewhere in between. I consider it a 3-ply. When you're doing all that looping, it puts a lot of stress and strain on the singles to be pulling them like that. They need to have a certain amount of twist in them to make sure that they don't break. And then you're also treadling the whole time as you're pulling your loops. So chain ply can sometimes get quite over twisted because you're adding all of this, you're treadling while you're pulling, and it can really like load up your yarn. So one of the things that I really like to do when my plan is to chain ply is I spin quite fine, and I put quite a bit of twist in my singles, and then I rewind them to ensure that that twist is really well evened out. And then they can sit on the bobbin for as long as I need them to rest. And then I also know that this bobbin is very evenly wound, so that when I'm pulling off of it, I don't need to tension them, and I don't need to do a whole bunch, because the yarn will come off really evenly and really easily as I'm chain plying. And it just makes the whole rigmarole, because I don't love chain plying, I'll be totally honest. I do it because I have to, not because I like to. It just makes it a really enjoyable situation. The other thing I could have done, and I could still do this, is I could break this where the blue is, and I could spin this end to end, and I could spin this end to end, and I could make a 3-ply. I have thought about that, but I don't know for sure that this is actually 4 ounces. I didn't weigh it, and I don't know for sure that the first half that I spun it was actually 2 ounces. I think it was more than 2 ounces. And I didn't check the lengths of the fiber before I started spinning to see how they matched up. If I had thought about that beforehand, I probably would have gone that route instead and done a traditional 3-ply. But I also am pretty sure that there isn't as much teal on this part of the braid compared to what I had, because this feels shorter. This just feels, it doesn't feel like it's quite 4 ounces. It's probably like 3 or 3.5. Anyhow, I'll report back. I think chain plying is the way to go. So I'll just chain ply and stick with my original plan. We are on the same Google trail. Kurt Godel is the mathematician, is also cool. Yeah, from Rapunzel maybe? Could be a play on Mother Godel, Mother Gothel from Rapunzel, maybe. Maybe I'm reading it wrong. No, it's Lady Godel. It's Dame Godel, Godel. Okay, well, we'll have to, yeah, not finding anything obvious. Thanks you guys for checking. I love that you guys were looking. I appreciate that. I have to remind myself to add in my dividers because they got archived. I think that's it for all of that. I think I have shared all of the things that I'm spinning, and this will get done. This project will get done hopefully this week. Oh, and my last Longway Homestead. I didn't share with you guys what my last one is. My last one, and I saved it for the end because it's my favorite, was Cheviot, or is Cheviot. I haven't done it yet. So Cheviot is the last one. This is a white Cheviot. She shows in the photo, I don't know if this is a dirty fleece or if it's just a variegated. I'm not sure. I think that looks more like dirt than it does anything else. Anyhow, because it says here the Cheviot breed only produces white fleeces, but then the photo is of brown. Anyways, this will be my last one. Maybe it won't be. Maybe this is Polypay. I just pulled out a whole other. Maybe this isn't Cheviot. Maybe this is Polypay and I've already done the Cheviot. I could have sworn I saved the Cheviot for last. I'm going to have to go back and see what I've spun. There were 2 of these in here. So I'm not sure. I remember she started, so what ended up happening when I was a member of this club, because it was so long ago, was I'm pretty sure that this is the Cheviot. I'm almost positive actually. They used to look like this, and then halfway through she redid all of her branding and everything because she was writing her book and her first one, and she was doing all this stuff. So then she switched to these ones, and sort of same idea, different layout, slightly different branding. And she sent that month that she switched over, she sent the one that was from the month before so that you would have them matching. And I'm pretty sure that this is Cheviot because it's the label is still in there. And then the Polypay was from the month before, and it was like your breed card from the month before. I'm positive that that's what happened. This is why, you guys, we all say, oh yeah, I'll remember, no problem. I don't need to make a note about that. Yes, you do. You need to write everything down. I was wondering that, Rebecca, spelling variation. Yes, totally. I was wondering that. Yeah, totally. Okay, last thing to share with you guys, then we'll do community participation. You can probably see it on the back behind me. I finished my bird's eye trellis stole. I am so happy with this. So let me share with you, this is a finished object. It's been kind of in the works for a while. So this was on the loom. I wove this on my Leclerc Jack, which is my big 45-inch wide loom. I found a home for it. It is going to live with my dear friend Charlotte, who works at the Sweet Georgia Yarns studio. I've known her forever. I'm so happy that she's able to take the loom. That not only she has the space to accommodate it, but I've done a couple of upgrades to the loom, like adding the apron at the back and putting on more heddles that I think she'll really just enjoy it for as long as it serves her. This is what this looked like on the loom. So basically, this was Sweet Georgia Yarns Silk Puff, and it's one of their bases. It's available, it's around, it's out there, but it's 40% merino, 40% superwash merino, 20% silk. And it's kind of a fun, springy, squishy kind of fiber blend. A lot of people like it for socks. It's great for shawls and stoles. And I had spun this, it was seconds off of the seconds wall at Sweet Georgia during, I think I got it right before we shut down for COVID for the pandemic. And I had 8 ounces of it. And actually this is all that's left from all the weaving. I was hoping to use up even more yarn, but I'm pretty happy with the fact that this got used up as much as it did. I've just got this little bit left. And I put a dummy warp on. So that's where basically what you do when you have a dummy warp is you wind a warp and you wind it onto the back of the loom, but then you leave all your ends and you tie on manually your warp that you want to weave on. The reason for doing this is to maximize the amount of yarn, of the hand spun yarn, so that your dummy warp comes forward at the end. And this, in this case, it actually came through my heddles. It didn't come through my my beater, through my reed. I stopped weaving because I wanted a fringe, but it did come through my heddles, and it was sitting just behind my reed, and then I wove the last couple of picks and then I cut it off. But it means that you can maximize your hand spun yardage. So I did this for my Beaumont alpaca sweatshirt thing that I'm making. I did get a serger, I told you guys that, so that'll get finished in the fall. And this I also used the dummy warp for so that I can maximize the yardage. I could have made this actually a little tiny bit wider because I did have a little bit of yarn left over, but I'm really happy with how it turned out, and very happy with the finished product. For those who are curious, this is the draft that I used. So this is a bird's eye twill, 1 2 3 4 1 2 1 4 3 2 1 4 3 4, and then it repeats. It's a 14 thread repeat. It's very pleasing. One of the things that I found most important when I have designed with this, I've used this draft a number of times now. I used it for my Master Weaver. I used it for other stuff. I've used it recently for my Breed Blends and Color Study. I used it for, what else have I used it for? That scarf stole that I did of the Charolais Breed and Color Study from years ago, a couple months ago. I used it for that or something similar. The one thing that I really like to do with drafts like this is to make sure that they're balanced. So for this particular one, I wouldn't want to end on the 3-4, the 4-3-4. I wouldn't want to end there. So you see at the end there, the last 3 threads are 4-3-4 right at the very end on the other side, on your left hand side. What I would do in that situation is I would add one more repeat of 1 2 3 4 1 2 1 4 3 2 1, and I would end on the 1. So I would add another 11 ends, to just balance the weave so that I'm not finishing, because you can see on this drawdown on that far side over there, and you guys can't see my mouse, so I can't show you with my mouse, but on the end there, you end with the diamond and the bird's eye in the middle. You end like halfway through the diamond. So it's nice to kind of have that finish and to have that kind of come to a conclusion, if you will. So that is the one thing. I would add the 4 3 2 1 on the other side of that just to finish that off. Sorry, not 4 3 2 1. I would add 1 2 3 4 1 2 1 4 3 2 1, and I would finish there. So I'd add those extra 11 picks. For those who are weavers, you guys are following me. For those who aren't, this is knowledge that you'll pick up down the road as you sort of delve into more and more of this kind of stuff. I think it's kind of a natural progression to start to pick up on how fabric is made as you get more experienced. So if I'm speaking over your head, just file it away for I will learn that one day. But just think about symmetry and finishing off a repeat and whatnot. It's just like in knitting with cables. You know, you don't want to finish your cable repeat halfway through. You want to finish it all the way. Or lace. You don't want to finish halfway through your lace repeat. You want to finish so that it looks balanced and looks symmetrical. This is exactly the same thing. This was my warp. And you can see with the warp, one of the things for the weavers in the group, especially those who are new to this and are sort of figuring all this out, the reason why I took these photos and wanted to share this with you was I knew that in the finished stole, I would have areas in the weft that there would be colors in the woven weft that would go through solid purple and solid, that I'm going to call it orange, but it's kind of a peachy, pinky orange. But I'm going to call it orange for ease of discussion, where the weft would go through areas of solid orange and solid purple, where you would have areas, and I'll show it to you in the finished stole, that would kind of blend and you wouldn't be able to see the woven pattern at all. But then you would have areas in the woven pattern where you would have high contrast between the orange and the purple, and you'd have maybe purple in the warp and orange in the weft, and you'd have that high contrast and you'd be able to see the woven pattern. That was the whole point. It's almost like faux iCat. So when I was winding the warp, for those of you who are weavers, you know where I'm going, I had to wind it as singles because I couldn't wind multiple strands at once and maintain that gradient. So to make sure that the yarn went through from orange to gold to purple to gold to orange, I had to wind the warp as singles. So that's what I was showing here. And you can see in the warp, it's very fine. You can see in the warp that it very gradually moves through those different colors. And that was the whole point. But you can't speed yourself up by winding 3-4 ends at a time. I couldn't even wind doubles. I had to wind just singles, and that's how I was able to create that color in the warp. So for those who are wanting to recreate something like this, you have some hand spun in your stash that you want to play with, like on your rigid heddle, you can't wind multiple ends on your rigid heddle. You have to go singles. But if you're using a warping board and you're creating a chain, a warp chain, you have to wind singles. So that's just something to think about. So this, I don't chain my warps. We can talk about that another time. We have talked about it before on the podcast, but I don't chain my warps. But this is an example where it's all singles. It's all one. So I used chokes, where I tied chokes in different places, and I did tie it quite well because it was singles and I didn't want to lose my cross. I had to make sure all of that was all intact. So just things to keep in mind when you're working with fine yarns like this. And this is what it looked like as I was loading it onto the loom and getting ready to spread it to wind it on. And this is what the 2 chains look like. So that kind of gives you an idea. This was the original fiber. One of the things that I kind of wish is that in the final product that the gold had come through a little bit more. It got very lost, and I'll show it to you in the finished thing. But even in the yarn, like it got very lost. And this is the full 8 ounces here photographed, and like the gold is basically gone. It really didn't come through. Yeah, I did use floating salvages, Dana. That's a great question. Yes, thank you for asking. Absolutely, I used floating salvages. I ran into a lot of problems with floating salvages, so let me grab Diana, and she'll come and sit with us here, and I will share with you the actual finished product. And we'll chat about what I would do differently next time. So this is it finished. I'm so happy with it. So let me just sit up. So you can see that this is one of those areas of contrast, right? Where you've got the purple warp, and then you've got the orange weft working all the way through, and so it really comes through. But then because the orange weft is so high contrast with the purple here, that's why it worked. That's why I knew it would work. The pattern is completely lost here when it's orange on orange. You can see there's a bit of pattern, like you can see a little bit coming through, but it's not like high contrast. And then of course, as the weft moved into the purple, you got the contrast on the outside, and you lost some of that contrast on the inside. And to me, I just love stuff like this. It's subtle. It's not in your face. It doesn't yell at you. I really like stuff like this. So I'll show you. I'll take it off of Diana for a second. She helps with like showing you guys stuff, but I'll just hold it up so that you can see. 3-inch fringe, and I soaked this in extremely hot water with eucalyptus. No, I shouldn't say that. It wasn't extremely hot. So our tap comes out at 140 Fahrenheit or about 60 degrees Celsius. And when I check it with a thermometer, like when I'm washing fleece, for example, when you measure it, it's sort of more around like 137, 136. So what I did was I filled the sink. I didn't completely fill it, but I like put a bit of water in the bottom that was at that 140, like as hot as I could get it. But then I added another little bit of water to just take off that real heat, and just like a little. It was more than lukewarm, but it wasn't hot. Let's put it that way, because I didn't want the silk to be completely destroyed and ruined and like suede it all. And there is 100% merino in here that could felt and get really quite beaten up. I just didn't want to lose all of the I didn't want the surface texture to become felted, basically, is what I was trying to avoid. So I soaked it in there with a little bit of eucalyptus, and then what I did afterwards, rather than spinning it dry and tumbling it dry and doing all of that stuff that I normally would, I treated it a little bit more gently. And I actually just laid it out. I set up our drying rack and I just laid it out to dry. I put it in the shade and it just kind of sat there throughout the day and dried. And that gave me just a beautiful fabric. It's structurally intact. I can't put my finger through it. There's no holes left. It's definitely cohesive, but it's not felted and it's not sueded. And then I took a moderate iron to it and I gave it a really good press, and I trimmed the fringe. I was going to twist the fringe, but I love just fringe this just left, and this is so short. It's only 3 inches with the dummy warp and the header and everything. That was sort of how much I could get out for the fringe because I was maximizing the yarn, right? 3 inches is not going to get tangled. It's not going to get wrecked. This isn't going to be a heavy wear item. And then I'll tell you about my set and everything in just a sec. That's a great question, Dana. And yeah, like how great, right? I really like this. I'm really proud of it. So thank you for letting me wax poetic about it, because I'm really, really, really pleased with this. In terms of the set, so this yarn is anywhere between, it wasn't really super evenly spun. Ask me how I know, because that's one thing. When you're warping singles, you basically touch every single inch of the yarn, like every single inch, which is kind of cool. So this yarn was, let me just grab my notes here because I don't want to say anything that wasn't correct. This is what my weaving notebook looks like for this project. And all my little notes and stuff, it doesn't really matter exactly what I write, but basically I start to map out the draft and start to think about what I'm going to do. And then I staple in, once I design it on my software, then I print it off and I put it into my book. So that's kind of where I started and what my ideas were, what I was designing, what I was thinking about, some of my key takeaways that I wanted to highlight. And over here is the project. The colorway was Hearth. I don't think I ever said that. I had a total of 1,800 yards or 1,700 meters of yarn at 230 grams of fiber. And it was roughly 28 wraps per inch, but then I kind of modified that a little bit because as I was winding the warp, I found that there were areas that were a little bit underspun and a little bit, let's see if the camera can focus, and a little bit underspun, and sort of some chunks of silk that came through that were a little bit thicker. And probably not as well, like I probably didn't pre-draft and attenuate it quite as well as I could have. And it definitely didn't have as much twist as I maybe should have. I should have put it back through the wheel one time to tighten it up. That's what I should have done. And so as I was doing that and as I was winding the warp, and I was sort of going based off of 28 wraps per inch for the final yarn, I was sort of thinking 14 to 15 ends per inch for the set. And what I ended up with, I think I did end up setting it at 15 ends per inch, actually. Yeah, 15 ends per inch. It was 12 inches across, and it wove at 15 picks per inch. Just double checking my notes. I don't want to mislead you guys. Yeah. Yeah, 15 ends per inch. $15 ends per inch, 12 inches across. Yeah. And then when it came off the loom, and I let it sit for a while, for 24 hours, when it came off the loom, it was 17 ends per inch, 16 picks per inch. So to rest it off the loom, the tension was gone. It just sat for 24 hours. And the finished, and the width before washing was 41.5 centimeters, and the length was 148.8 centimeters. And then I haven't done the post-washing measurements, but I will. So yeah, 15 ends per inch, 15 picks per inch, and then off loom, it was 17 ends per inch, 16 picks per inch. And those numbers are important because it's important because as you move through the different phases of your fabric creation, from your swatching, whether it's knit or woven, to your project itself that you're working on the needles or on the loom, to pulling it off of your needles, binding it off with a loom, taking it off the loom and actually cutting it off the loom, to washing and finishing, every single step and every single stage, your yarn changes. Your set changes, your gauge changes, the appearance changes. When you wash your yarns, things change, they shrink. You can put a sweater on a clothes hanger wet, and it'll stretch and stretch and stretch and stretch if there's alpaca in it. These are all things to pay attention to. I'm glad with this particular yarn that I didn't open it up too much, because it was so soft with that merino and silk in there that I think if I had opened it up to like say 12 or 13 ends per inch, it would have been fine. It would have shrunk a bit more, but it would have been very gauzy and very open. And I think it would have been a lot harder to get a really cohesive, lovely finished fabric without beating it up a lot, and without sort of doing some like, you know, fulling and banging it and bashing it and whatnot. Whereas this way I was able to soak it, I could leave it, the fibers opened up, and then of course they cooled and closed down, and it created a cohesive fabric where it's like not gonna, I can't put my finger through it, but it's not gonna, it's not too gauzy. It's not gonna catch, like if I'm wearing it out one night and I've got like jewelry on or something, it's not gonna catch and snag really, really super badly. It's gonna grab it and it's gonna snag it, but it's not gonna, I can still fix it. Whereas if it's really gauzy and really open, it's gonna create big problems. So those are the things that you're thinking about when you're creating fabric. Nicole said, okay, winding singles, Deidre. Hold one strand at the warping board. It's a bit slower, but it achieves the effect on the warp that she was looking for. Exactly. You guys were asking about, what do you mean by winding singles? Yeah, so when I'm winding, I'm just using one thread of yarn, not as singles, like when we talk about singles, we're talking about like a yarn that's got one thread, right? A singles yarn. But when we're talking about winding one single thread, one has an S, one doesn't, one single thread, I'm just going through on the warping board with one strand. Thank you, Nicole, for helping to explain. Yeah, and then what I normally do is I'll hold 2, 3, or 4 strands at once and wind. So I hope that helps. On a rigid heddle, it doesn't apply, because if you're doing peg warping, direct warping, you're winding just the one strand all the time. So I didn't mean to confuse you guys. All right. Let's go to, let me see if I can find it. Now this I know is working. Let's do community participation and then we'll say goodbye. Yeah, and what I do when I'm winding from one single yarn source, so I've got the ball of yarn, I wind a center pull ball, and then I pull from the outside. Because if you pull from the inside, you're adding quite a bit of twist. In this case, I should have done that. I should have pulled from the center because I needed more twist in this yarn. I meant to mention about, let me just go back for just 1 second. I meant to mention about my floating selvages with this, because Dana had asked about it. With this type of twill, you need a floating selvage. They kept breaking. About 2/3 of the way through the weaving, my floating selvages started to break. So it's like all that weaving and all that wear and tear and the weight of the floating selvages on the outside. So floating selvages just give you somewhere to loop around to create an edge. They kept breaking after that, and I think I had like 3 or 4 breaks on both sides. It wasn't like a ton, but it was enough to be annoying. The yarn was underspun. So what I would have done next time is thrown the yarn back through the wheel one more time, tighten it up, washed it one more time. It would have breathed, this yarn had been in my stash for about 5 years, and it would have just breathed a little bit of life back into it. The twist would have been a little bit tighter, and it would have tightened it up for being used as a floating selvage. The other thing I could have done is doubled up my floating selvage and used 2 strands on the outside, but I felt like it made it a bit too bulky. But you could do that if you wanted to. All right, let's go to community participation. So this is the time in the show and the opportunity in the show to share what you guys have been doing. And we'll start off with finished yarn from Tour de Fleece. So last time we had a massive community participation for Tour de Fleece because there was just tons and tons and tons of finished yarn. So I tried to grab what I could from the last couple of days, because a lot of people are still spinning for Tour de Fleece Femme, so they haven't finished, skeining. I think Ellen had said earlier in the show that she's still figuring out her yardage from Tour de Fleece as well. So people are still kind of getting themselves organized. This is from Evelyn. I love these colors, Evelyn. You did such a beautiful job on this. It's her BFL 340 meters of 2-ply. And the mini skein is just leftovers of the light base, and she bracelet plied that. So that's where you wind it on your wrist, and you ply off of the bracelet. This is from Florence, 4 Tour de Fleece spins. So each of these like rows is a different spin. So she's got 2 on the bottom there, that navy blue and that coral. Those are like my favorite colors right now. I just love, I've always loved navy blue, but coral and navy blue right now, chef's kiss, beautiful. And she's been plying up a storm for Tour de Fleece Femme. She's been sharing some of her finished yarns. It's so great to see. I'm excited to share all of that when she's done. This is from Mans. Finished her comb top a few days ago, washing and reskeining her heart out. 945 yards of heavy DK light worsted. Perfect, Mans. That'll be beautiful. Her plan is to use it with Durarum. Is that how you say it? Durarum Natura for a cardigan. I've never worked with Durarum. It's very difficult to get here, but I've heard really good things. Beautiful yarn. It's gonna be that's gonna knit up beautifully. And it was a combo of Hello Yarn, Polworth, Rambo, and Targhee, and Sleepy Hollow, all different nest colorways and Hello Yarn colorways. Beautiful. It's from Laura. The only skein that she spun for Tour de Fleece, that's okay. It's Malabrigo Noob, 650 meters of light fingering 2-ply. This is from Dionne. Amazing. This is her Tour de Fleece. So she talks about these spins and these yarns in the most recent episode of Woolen Spinning Radio. So look for episode 119, Tour de Fleece recap for 2025, and she talks about all of these spins in that episode. She spun a total of 1,952 grams, 4.3 pounds. Unbelievable, Dionne. Amazing. I don't think she's here today. We've been waxing poetic about Dionne all day. Maybe her ears are burning. This is from Stephanie. Still spinning for Tour de Fleece Femme, but here's my progress up to the end of Tour de Fleece. All of her yarns are her default traditional 2-ply. Beautiful, Stephanie. Absolutely beautiful. And you can read all of the different yarns there. And then she's got spindles, BFL silk on her spindles. And actually she's continued to spin on her spindles, and she's made really good progress. Beautiful. This is from Tessa. She did so well this tour. Calling it a day. She's so tempted to get plying, but she's going to have to be content with what she's got. She did some Polworth. She did some bamboo. She did a combo draft. She did Polworth Llama Silk. It's crazy. So much fun fiber. So great. Thanks, Tessa, for sharing. It's from Crystal. She did a core spun, and actually this slide is supposed to go after this one. I think I just messed that up. So she wanted to take a break from some of her traditional, I think she was doing a 3-ply, and she finished that off. It was miles of spinning, and then she did a couple of core spun. So there was this one, and there was this one. Beautiful. It's from Rebecca, our very own Rebecca. This was some of her spinning, Tour de Fleece Femme Stage 2 and Stage 21 for Tour de Fleece. It looks unfinished, but this is exactly what I enjoyed to have hoped to have done at this point. They were in Fargo in North Dakota over that weekend when she posted all of this, and she was spinning on her spindles while they were down visiting. Beautiful. Gorgeous yarn, Rebecca. Just beautiful skeins. Absolutely amazing. This is from Kat. Very Pink Gradient is already on the needles. That's the socks on the far left there. And then she finished all of these skeins during Tour de Fleece. Amazing. It's from Mary. She's got quite the basket here as well. Her goal was to spin almost every day, and she ended up spinning about 4 days a week. They were traveling, I think, as well. And she's got just a ton of yarn here that she was able to finish. So well done, Mary. Beautiful. And she said on the bobbin is Rambouillet with mulberry silk blended from the Woolery. It's her biggest splurge ever and is spinning up so finely, but it doesn't look like much. But there is still a lot of love on that bobbin. Amazing. This is from Carola. She finished her basket. Amazing. And it's overflowing to the point where she had to even put stuff off to the side. She spun 6,377 meters or 2,467 grams in total. She did tons of different breeds. She used a bunch of natural dyes, and she needs to strengthen her shoulders before next year's tour. Yeah, that's a lot of spinning, Carola. Amazing. Just beautiful. This is from Flavia. Aren't these spindles incredible? They just look so amazing. This was all spun during Tour de Fleece. Yesterday I finished spinning the second watermelon tourmaline, I can't say that word, roving. And then she's going to start a new project after the plying. Beautiful, Flavia, just amazing. And then of course we've got spindle spun season going right now as well. So this goes way into September. So I hope that lots of you are starting to think about, now that Tour de Fleece and Tour de Fleece Femme is kind of almost over, I hope you guys are thinking about some spindle projects that you can do. So this is from Laura. She was spinning on her boat. There's more photos of this yarn and her spinning and the finished yarn and everything on her boat. They're just beautiful. It's on the Ravelry group, so definitely have a look. This is Kainu Gray that she got from a colleague who has a small flock of Kainu Gray sheep. I love that was one of my favorite spins that I did in the last few years. She blended it with some sari silk to add some color, and that is so effective, Laura. It is beautiful. It's from Pauline. Almost finished 105 grams of BFL. Daily practice is so helpful. I know a lot of spindle spinners that are quite prolific, like Diana Twist, for example. That's one of the things they swear by, is having a daily practice, which I think is really the way to go. Yeah, I agree, Rebecca. Very cool photo. This is from Corolla. Tour de Fleece supported spindle spun is done. Amazing. Look at this yarn. This was colorful roll legs that she made from almost all her home acid dyed leftovers. This photo is also on Ravelry, and she shows the roll legs. They are incredible. Like, definitely go and have a look, because they are something else. Just beautiful. And she used a lot of white wool leftovers. There's Cotswold, Southdown, Oxford, Suffolk, which is quite the combination, Corolla. So I hope this was really fun to spin. It's such a unicorn barf color. I think with gray or black it would be incredible. Even white, it would just be awesome. Corolla's stranded color work, or cardigan, something striped. I think that would be awesome. This is going to be really beautiful knit up. Gray would mute it. It would make it look very dull. Whereas black or white is going to potentiate it. The black will make it quite intense and vivid, and the white will make it really bright. So either would work, but I personally wouldn't do the gray. But that's just me. You do you. It's going to look awesome either way. Also from Pauline, she started a new braid from Bramble Ridge, 100% merino, and look at that spinning. It is incredible. It's going to be a 3-ply. This is from Dionne. She's been spinning some alpaca flax. She pulled out her drop spindles, 60-40. Lovely spin. And it was funny because she pulled out her drop spindles and her husband's like, oh, you haven't used your drop spindles for a while. And she's like, I can't believe you know what these are. It's pretty cool. They do pick up on our knowledge, our partners and our families. I won't tell you guys what my kids call all of my woolly stuff. This is from Susan. 2 out of 3 done. The fiber is Southdown from Regenbogenwohl in Germany. Hey, how was that? Rolled off my tongue. How good is that? And this is, hang on. And then we have some just general makes and shares, because some people didn't do Tour de Fleece this year. And there are those in our community that have been working on some bigger projects, and they've finished a few things, which is fantastic. So this one is from Diane. She finished this by the skin of her teeth for the local country fair. And so she got this washed and blocked like the day before. She was working on it while they were camping. And this is the Field Day Cardigan by Camilla Vad. I know that the yoke she ended up redoing a couple of times, or had to rip back. She had some issues. But wow, like what an amazing spin. Hand spun from raw fleece, 3-ply. It was CVM Rommeldale Cotswold Finn Cross, held with a lace weight alpaca silk. Just beautiful. This is the one that got wet on my trip. So she was camping with friends and it got wet, but no worse for wear. It looks amazing, Diane. Amazing. Speaking of perfect, yes, agreed, Eveline. This is from Kim, her 3-ply 2-way socks. So for those who don't know about this, if you're a newer spinner or you haven't seen this in the community, there's a celebration of sort of this three-ply 2-ways idea out there. And so you take the braid of fiber and you split it in half, and you spin a 3-ply with one half one way, and then you spin a 3-ply with the other half another way. So you can do like chain ply and fractal, or you could do a traditional 3-ply where you just divide it into 3 and spin it end to end. Well, here she did a cable yarn. You could do a crepe yarn, a 3-ply crepe, and an opposing 3-ply. The idea is to choose 2 different 3-ply structures and split the braid in half and then either stripe them with each other for the duration of the sock. That's how most people do it, is then you have the 2 yarns combined. So each sock is the same and they're striped, and you can see the differences in the stripes. It's a very cool technique. I've done it a few times over the years, and it's just really fun. And you don't have to spin the entire braid the same way. So you get to kind of mix it up halfway through. Kim did a cable, so the one yarn was a 4-ply, I'm thinking, and it was from Nest Fiber Club in August 2024. Beautiful. I love those colors, Kim. Just gorgeous. Thank you so much, you guys, for sharing what you do, for being here, for participating in the community, for continuing to support the work that I do here, and the other people that I support to be able to do their work, Rebecca and Dionne. So thank you so much for being here and for participating, for continuing to show up, whether it's in the live stream, in the Slack channel, on the Ravelry group, on Instagram. No matter how you support and show up, we just really appreciate that you're here. We want you to find a home here and to be a part of what's going on here. And I want to say an extra special thank you to those people. I have no idea if my end credits are going to work, so let's see if they work. And if not, then I know where to find them now, so I can fix it. So let's just bear with me.